Coach, I look forward to covering the team several times this year, and I kind of just want to begin with the big one about the offense. I mean, what changes in offense do you see under Drew? What changes do you think you have this year?
Yeah, it's going to look a little different. There's going to be some things that we do that are, similar to what Navy offenses have done in the past. You're going to see slots and wings and a little bit more of a tight end presence, but it's a wing T base. Obviously, there's still elements of the triple option and the ability to get into the gun, do some things out of that as well. But some, don't want to give too much away, Carter. But it's going to be. It's not an entirely new look for us, but it is different for sure. And really like what we're doing. I think Coach Cron's done a great job installing the offense. Really pleased with where we're at, being that it's a new scheme and looking forward to getting after this last week, kind of finalizing our game plan here. And, things have started to slow down a little bit for us, going against our defense, through spring ball and fall camp. Is going to make us much better offensively because we see a lot of things and a lot of challenging looks and pressures and movements, things like that. So it's started to slow down a little bit for them. I thought Saturday's mock game was a really clean scrimmage for us. So I was excited about that. So really excited about the offense and the look. I think it's exactly what we need to be doing to give our players a chance to be successful and give them an edge. And it's unique. It's different. It's going to be hard to prepare for. Hopefully it's an equalizer for us, but I like what I see so far.
Let's go to Gary Lambert, NavySports.com, writing a story on Daba Fofana.
Brian, I just want to ask you a couple things about Daba. Encapsulate, if you could, just what his presence brings to this program in a year like this, with the captain designation, with the fact that he's obviously a senior and all the tools he brought to Navy.
Yeah. Well, Daba's a really good football player. I think he's had a really, really good fall camp. I think more important than anything, he's a great person. Very genuine, sincere guy. Our players love Daba. He's played a lot of snaps for us. He's a very good leader. He's got his own style, leadership. He's he's not one of those guys that's just going to jump down your throat. More the kind of guys can pull you aside and speak to you in a manner where he's not going to embarrass you or something like that. But really sharp. I mean, well-rounded kid, great student. Can play music. Was featured in our talent show. Just all around great young man and played a lot of snaps for us, like I said, and he's going to be a big feature part of our offense this year. But couldn't be more pleased with the job that he's done as a captain, the way he's handled himself and gone about his business, and the way he cares about his teammates.
As tough as it was offensively last year, the emergence of Alex was, without a doubt, had to be one of the biggest pluses. And I'm just wondering, how has that evolved? How did Daba handle that? I mean, he got a ton of carries the year before, and you assume he's just going to keep on keeping on, and here comes Alex.
Yeah, well, Daba just wants to win football games and to do everything he can to help his football team do that. And the great thing is we got two guys at that position, and there's not a lot of drop off when either one of them are on the field. And obviously, having Daba at D-back allows us some flexibility of what we can do with Teska, the ability to move him around and do some different things with him. But I think those guys they get along really, really well, and I know they root for each other, and it's great to have two guys of that caliber of player that can play for us, and also allow us, like I said, some flexibility of what we can do with Teska.
So, have you had a chance to hear a somewhat private composition on that there cello?
Yeah, well, he's gone out the last two talent shows and just crushed it. He played some Rihanna on the violin or on the cello, excuse me, and really, really good stuff.
Well, you're a music guy. You like a lot of different sounds.
I do.
Does that pull you in?
Absolutely.
His sound.
I'm always amazed. It's amazing. The guys play the piano and the guitar and all those things. Just how well rounded these guys are, and the talents they have. Outside of football is pretty amazing.
Go to
Appreciate you,
Scott
Brian.
Wyckoff. Thanks, Gary. Let's go to Scott Wyckoff, WBAL Radio.
Yeah, Coach, what do you like best about the way the team's performing in practice now as you do the final game planning and you head into Bucknell?
I just like the way we're going about our business and attacking every day, and just the obsession to the details and obsessed with getting better every day, and just having that, that it's cliche, but we talk about it all the time, just that 1-0 mindset. I like the confidence of our football team right now, Scott. I think the buy-in on both sides of the football has been tremendous, and you've seen incremental growth and progress in everything that we're doing, really, in all three phases, and we got a lot of guys that have played a lot of snaps together. There's a lot of trust on this football team and their teammates and the coaches, and so I feel like we're in a good place in regards to just our confidence. And confidence comes from the work that you put in, and obviously the preparation, but also having a little bit of success too. And so I think that may be the biggest difference where we're at right now compared to a year ago.
And what is it about this team? Even the younger players are showing a maturity in practice, a sharpness that I haven't seen on both sides of the ball combined.
I think
for several seasons.
That's a credit to our senior leadership, Scott, is what I would tell you. There's a clear cut standard principles that we have, and if you don't live up to that, it's not just the coaches holding you accountable, it's your teammates, and that senior class has done a really good job with the internal leadership piece and making sure the young guys really understand what the expectation is and that there's a certain way that we do things.
Is this the time in these early practices this week when the battles for position end and when a guy has to be put into a position to game plan for what his role will be on Saturday?
Yeah, I think, toward the beginning of last week that had kind of been settled. Not say there's not some guys at certain positions that aren't, still battling it out, that, we're not going to play a couple of guys at certain spots. But I think it's pretty clear cut right now. I think the jockeying is on the special team stuff. It's going to come down to, the end of the week and making some decisions there in regards to certain spots. But offensively, defensively, it's pretty set right now.
Thanks, Coach.
You're welcome, Scott.
Bill Wagner, Annapolis Capital.
So you feel good about Blake leading this offense Saturday? You feel he's where he needs to be? It's going to be a big responsibility. He played a few games last year, but this is, he's a young guy still.
Yeah, absolutely. I do. I'm really excited to watch him play. I think his growth has been pretty remarkable, since last year, even from spring ball. And I mentioned it a few times, just his comfort level with what we're doing offensively, and seeing the big picture of things, understand the intent, the plays Coach Cronick's calling, and he's a smart young man, very well rounded. I think he's got a great grasp on what we're doing. I think the decision making has gotten better and better, and excited about him, excited about Braxton as well. They've both done some really good things this camp, and we're going to need both of them to win football games.
So for the Bucknell game, I'll ask Coach Cronick about this, but you're the head coach, so a lot of this decision is on you. Do you stay a little vanilla on offense and maybe not show the entire package? Maybe say that for your American Athletic Conference opponents?
No, I don't think so. I think the entire menu's on deck, and I think we got to go try to win a football game. Bucknell's a veteran team and got some good players, and I know they're going to be ready to play. And I'm never one to go into a game and really try to hold things. I think if you can, you'd like to be able to, but we're not going in with that mindset. If the game goes a certain way, then maybe your thoughts are that way, but I don't anticipate it being that way. I think it's going to be a challenge on Saturday, and we just got to go win it.
Is this kind of an exciting time with this new offense? This is kind of a new beginning for Navy football.
Yeah, I think so. I'll tell you, I'm definitely excited about it, and can't wait to see it in action on Saturday. And like I said, I feel really good about where we're at, the things that we're doing. I think, I look at things from a defensive perspective, and it's challenging stuff to defend. We've said few times. Defensively, we've had trouble with a lot of things that they're doing, and so when you can present our defense with some problems, and that's usually a pretty good indicator. Yeah, I'm really excited about it. Like I said, I love what we're doing. I think it suits who we are. I think it suits our quarterbacks. I think it's exactly what we need to be doing to give ourselves a chance to win games right now.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you, Bill.
Joe Miller, Navy Radio.
Coach, you're talking about that from that defensive perspective. When you look at this Bucknell team for what they do on the offensive side of the field, what are your keys and what are the kind of things that you're watching out for headed into Saturday against this Bucknell team?
Yeah, well, they're veteran offensive line, big up front, really good quarterback, and some skill guys to get the ball to. I mean, I think they're talented on offense, and they're 11 personnel team primarily, and do some really good stuff, some really challenging things. And the deal for us is we got 11 guys flying to the football and doing their job. And in the first game of the year, you always worry about making mistakes, doing things to beat yourself, and we got to go out and play a clean game. We got 11 guys doing their job with fixation of detail and overwhelming them, with the kind of effort that we play with and the physicality.
When you think back a year ago, obviously a little bit different making your debut in Ireland, but what would you say that how have you grown as a coach going into year two? What are the things that you think of that you kind of, I don't know if you made a list or just mental, things that, you grew from last year to this year?
Yeah, I think the thing going into last year that I was, maybe nerved up about was just the decision making, during the course of the game. That's something I hadn't had to do. And so spent a ton of time, just working through situational football, when to go for on fourth down, all of those things, 2-minute offense, when to use your timeouts, all of those things. And I think, your first year, some of the finer details may get slightly overlooked. I think that's where my focus is now, and just understanding how important every little tiny thing is. And I didn't feel like we were a very disciplined football team at times last year, and that's on me. And so those are the things that I've really dialed in on, and I think we're better at right now. It gets a better understanding what our expectations are in regards to certain things, and I think just settling into the role, be more comfortable. Just try not to be anybody else but yourself. And maybe the biggest lesson that I learned, and just how important the chemistry of your staff is, and the chemistry of your players, and that trust between the coaches and the players, and the buy-in, and all those things. And some things you just maybe you slightly overlook, your first time going through it, that you make note of. And so I just think I'm overall more comfortable and in the role, and got a better grasp on things that we need to do to be successful maybe.
A couple slight rule changes, 2-minute warning, and the communication in the helmet seems to make maybe a bigger deal. How have you guys handled that in the preseason, and does it change anything that you guys do headed into the season?
Yeah, so we've used it a lot, obviously, in trying to work through the whatever issues you might have, and the kinks, and how we can use it to our advantage. But it's been really good. We've gone to the stadium the last 2 Saturdays and tested the technology out. The player to coach communication, I think, is a really cool deal. I know our players like it, and so do our coordinators. The tablets are pretty outstanding as well. It's a little different than what they use in the NFL. As you guys know, in the NFL, they use still shots. We've got video. We can tag things on those iPads, and it's just a great tool to use, side of ball in between possessions to get things straightened out, and to find issues or problems, and be able to show your players and talk through some things. And so, everybody's using it. So it's not like it's an advantage for us necessarily, but it does help certain things. There's no doubt about it.
Thanks, Coach.
Pete Medhurst, Navy Radio Network.
Brian, just to piggyback on what you were just talking about, from a logistical standpoint, is that something that you and Greg Morgenthaler have to kind of get together and, someone's responsible for if that communication goes down in a helmet, someone's responsible for having that next helmet, right by. And then obviously if a iPad goes down, is that something logistically you had to add to the list of things for this coming season just by adding that technology?
Yeah, sure. That's kind of why we wanted to go in the stadium the last 2 Saturdays, Pete, kind of work through that. And had an issue on Saturday, one of the helmets didn't work. There was some confusion on getting another helmet in there, but G's done a great job and done a lot of research. And I thought everything was really, really smooth the last 2 Saturdays in regards to it. Had a couple of glitches with the iPads, things like that you're working through, but we haven't had any major issues. But it's more of just getting used to using it, how best to use it. And I think we're in a good place right now with that, and we'll continue to use that stuff throughout the week and make sure our quarterbacks are comfortable and the guys we're using, putting the mics and their helmets on defense as well.
I want to go back to something you talked about a couple of answers ago. In football now, it's almost an epidemic at every level. There are seemingly more 6+ penalty teams out there a game than there ever have been. You mentioned discipline. Outside of replacing individuals that seem to violate that discipline, as a coach, just what exactly can you do to try and make your team, as you mentioned, more disciplined in the areas? Because as you guys point out all the time, a loss of 5 yards, loss of 10 yards is usually crippling at times to an offense like yours.
Yeah, it comes down to what you're emphasizing during the body of practice, but also it's the little things off the field that carry over that maybe slipped a little bit last year. And there's going to be penalties in games. There's kind of what we call playing penalties, where guys are playing hard and you may get a late hit, and there's going to be a hold occasionally. But the things that we didn't do a good job with last year were just the pre-snap penalties, and completely unnecessary. That, as you said, especially when we were struggling on offense last year, to get a 5-yard penalty and being 1st and 15, or it's 3rd and 1, now we're in 3rd and 6. Those are game-changing penalties. Put you behind the sticks, and it changes everything. So those are things that we got to eliminate. We don't expect us to be necessarily a penalty-free team. Those happen in football, especially when you play as hard as we do. But we can't have the pre-snap penalties. The false starts, the delay games, line up in the neutral zone. Those type of things we've got to eliminate.
In the limited doses we got him last year, your quarterback showed explosiveness. Sometimes, though, like a lot of travel, the luggage didn't go with him sometimes. Do you see a player still playing with that confidence, that moxie, and obviously you've mentioned the understanding of what's being asked of him, but obviously that football staying high and tight and, obviously trying to take advantage of that explosiveness a little bit more this time around?
Yeah, we talk about it all the time. The ball is the brotherhood when it's in your hands, and there's not a day that goes by where we're not working some kind of ball security, offensively. The hard part for those quarterbacks is we don't go live on those guys in spring and fall camp, and so they're not taking big hits. So you have to do whatever you can to simulate that when you're doing your turnover circuits and things like that. And so we work on it a ton. Our guys know how important it is, and it's something that we talk about all the time, is protecting that football and on defense, taking it away. I think we were in the top 5 in the country in turnover margin last year, and it's certainly something that Blake's aware that he's got to be better at, obviously, this year. But it's definitely something that we work on a ton.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pete.
He didn't have any questions today, but I do want to welcome Noah Ferguson on to the beat from the Washington Post. He's learning today, and maybe next time he'll have a question, but want to welcome him. So let's go 2 questions each this time around to finish it off. Let's go back to Carter Blackburn from CBS Sports Network.
Well, this may be tipping your hand as well, but I'm just interested in what were the last decisions, position battle wise, toughest decisions you had to make position wise.
Well, I think there's some spots in the O-line that we're working through, and look at Trey Cummings, who's played a lot of snaps for us. Was a little banged up, a little behind the 8 ball from a conditioning standpoint, from X's and O's standpoint, and he's come along quite a bit the last week. He's a guy that we're going to need to play a lot of snaps for us, and just trying to figure out, where to plug those guys in to get our best five. And then, the depth behind that is really where the biggest competitions have been, I'd say, on the offensive line. And, the battle at quarterback, and Blake's been the kind of the listed guy for a while, but I mean, that's a tight race to me. Both those guys are really talented, and both those guys can help us win football games.
Can you just give us kind of a assessment of where you are special teams wise right now? I mean, you mentioned that that's going to be a decisions as well this week. Where do you feel? How do you feel special teams wise?
I feel good about our special teams units. I think Ricky Brown has done a phenomenal job taking that over, last year, and I think that was a bright spot for us. You go back and look at the numbers and things that we did, and having Riley Reifman back at punter, and Rain Fry snapping. Nate Kirkwood back kicking field goals for us. I feel like we're in a really good place with our teams. I like what we're doing schematically in each phase, and our kids take a lot of pride in those units. So I've been really pleased with where we're at special teams wise. And, there's a lot of talented younger players, some plebes included in that are going to need to help us. And so working those guys into those units, and where can we give some of our starters some relief if there's not a big drop off in the production at those spots. And so that's the part that you kind of work through right up until the last minute, of which young guys can help you and which young guys can you count on. You're going to be reliable and do their jobs, and we got a lot of those. And a lot of those guys, Carter, really, it's hard to play here right away as a plebe. A lot of those guys start coming on third, fourth, fifth game of the year, but the earlier they can help, the better, and we certainly have some that can.
Thank you.
I went off WBL.
Coach, you've been on the other side of these early season FCS against FBS games. What's it like for those players and those coaches? What's going through their minds in these final practices as they get ready to come to Annapolis?
Well, I think they probably understand what a great opportunity it is for them. And, I think, a lot of those players, maybe felt like coming out of high school, they didn't get the opportunities that they deserved, and maybe feel like they're FBS players. And we all know FCS football is really good football. I coached it for a long, long time, and seen a lot of FCS teams beat FBS teams, but they don't play in front of this kind of environment every week. That's just the truth. And the opportunity for them to come to Annapolis and play in front of 35,000 people and on a big stage is a great opportunity for them. And so I'm sure they're excited about it. I know as a coach, I was, anytime we got that opportunity when I was at Kennesaw and some other places, and they'll be ready to go. I guarantee you that. And yeah, I think they're probably all just really excited and looking forward to the opportunity. Probably feel like they don't have a whole lot to lose, and they're going to go cut it loose.
And I would imagine when you scout a team like this, you look at the transfers when they're able to get players out of the portal, and it looks as though they've got a handful of skilled players from some major Division I colleges that are known for football that looks like they want to make a statement at this level for Bucknell.
Yeah, they got a handful of transfers that are good players. I think they've done a great job of recruiting high school players and developing them. You're looking at a team that's got, I think, if I'm right, 17 starters back, 16 starters back. Guys that played a lot of snaps and guys that they've had in the system for a little while that they've developed, and so I think they're doing it the right way, and I think they're plugging in at some spots where they needed some help. But it's a nice combination of a team that's obviously done well recruiting high school players and filling some of the areas with some good transfers.
Have a great week.
Thanks, Scott. You too.
Joe Miller. I'm sorry. It's Wag's turn. Wags and Joe Miller. My bad.
So, Coach, you kind of hit upon it. I thought Bouton was working at guard, but you mentioned you moved him over to tackle because Trey's been banged up a little bit. But was it also have to do with Cam Nichols really emerging?
Yeah, I think been really impressed with Cam, and that's part of it. And Bouton's been a guy that's been able to play guard and tackle. He's kind of a utility knife up front for us and been a good player for us. So they have the flexibility for him to be able to play both. And we had a couple of guys that can do that. But Yeah, certainly Cam's come a long ways, and he's got an opportunity to be a really, really good player for us, and he's still learning, but he's a lot less mental errors last couple of weeks than there were before, and that's kind of been the issue, which it always is of those young players. But he's come a long, long way, and he got a chance to be a really good player for us.
The inside linebackers are such an important piece of the defense. They make so many tackles. It's kind of designed that way for them to roam free and make tackles. Are you feeling good about that position? Obviously, Colin Ramos is a proven entity, but Kyle Jacob has shown you some things that he can replace Will Harbor.
Yeah, I feel as good about our inside backers as I have since I've been here. And not a lot of people know about Kyle Jacobs right now, but they will after the season. I really pretty quickly. The thing you love about those two guys is Kyle's got the same mentality that Colin does, and a little bigger package, and he's smart, he's hungry. Obviously, got hurt early in the year last year. He's a guy that's tough and loves football, and I love his style of play. It's what a Mike linebacker's style of play should be, and so I'm looking forward to being able to unleash Kyle Jacob. So it's a good combination, and both those guys are the epitome of Navy football.
People forget Kyle Jacob had a heck of a game against Notre Dame last year before getting hurt. Joe Miller, we got about 6 minutes.
Yeah, Coach, I was going to ask about the linebackers too, but I'll ask about Jackson Campbell. I mean, he's only played a few snaps here and there. Do you see that as a position that's still kind of open going into camp? I mean, going into the season, or what have you seen from Jackson that you like at that position?
No, a lot. He solidified that position. Obviously, Ken McShann is the backup who's willing and able, certainly, but Jackson's kind of separated himself and just talking about our style of play and a mentality. I mean, his motor runs hot. He flies around. He has fun playing the game, and just the level of detail with him has gotten so much better. And the ability to make plays coming off the edge, make plays in space. He's shown me a lot, and I've really been impressed with Jackson and just where he's at now compared to where he was a year ago. Maybe one of our most improved players.
Awesome. That's it for me. Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, Joe.
A reminder, we'll have Jackson tomorrow at 1:30 on the Zoom. I can promise you he is also a good quote. Pete Medhurst.
Two things left for me. What have you seen from Hutchinson that's just allowed him to excel and zoom to the one of the top of the wide receiver charts to be able to compete for a lot of snaps there?
Yeah, well, just his athletic ability, number one. I mean, he may be the fastest guy on our team in the 40 yards, and so he's got the ability, him along with Nathan, to knock the top off the coverage. But I think just fine-tuning the details of what he's doing and what Drew needs our wide receivers to do in this offense. I think Chikadis has done a great job with him. I think anytime you take a guy that played quarterback and understands things, to go over and play another position offensively, a skill position, has a little bit better understanding of things, space, what the quarterback's looking for, can identify coverages a little bit better. But yeah, I've been really impressed with him, and not just his athletic ability, but his ability to make some really nice catches in traffic and those kind of things. So, which, seeing that, I think, gave him a lot of confidence, gave us a lot of confidence in him. So he's certainly a guy that we're going to need to make plays, and he has the ability to do that.
That fostered another question for me. I see the clock. The fact that your coaches, and obviously men get in this profession because they're really good at what they do, but the fact that in some cases this is the third thing they've been teaching in 3 years, the fact that they're able to just pick right up, get to the new system, teach those nuances, and be able to hit the ground running hopefully this coming week. Just what kind of a challenge is that? This obviously being a good football coach to begin with.
Yeah, I think, the one thing is, I think there's some differences, obviously. I know you guys talked to Jay Guillermo about just some of the differences in the stances and things we're doing on the O-line, but there's so many similarities too. And we got a bunch of veteran coaches on our staff, but are really, really good ball coaches. And I think it starts with Drew being really clear on the way he wants things taught and being a great communicator, which he is, and just going out and having a spring ball and a fall camp. Those guys the chemistry on that side of the ball is really, really good. And then, it wasn't like Drew came in, didn't know anybody, being able to bring Jay and David Cole with him was big. But I think I couldn't be more happy with, the way that those guys get along and work together and care about each other. It's all around just a phenomenal staff of great people first and foremost that care about each other, trust each other, and you go in those rooms. There's no egos. It's a collaboration, and but yeah, I'd say there's some. If we were going to a spread offense, it'd be a little different. You know what I mean? But there's so many similarities to things we've done here in the past, but you're right. There are the little finer nuances of things, but I think those guys Drew's done a great job of communicating all that stuff and making sure we're all on the same page.
Is there anything that typifies Navy football more than Kellen being listed as your backup long snapper now?
No, not at all. These guys, I tell you what, you say own your role, and these guys really do that here, regardless, and they do it to the best of their ability. And we got a bunch of unselfish guys in your team that just want us to have success and willing to do, what's best for the football team. And that's just one little example.